My name is Alex Chen, and I learned that in the tech startup world, the most dangerous people aren't your competitors. They're the ones who sign your paycheck while secretly planning to steal your work. For 3 years, I worked as a senior AI engineer at TechVision Solutions, one of those mid-tier startups that talked big about disrupting the industry while mainly producing mediocre software for corporate clients. I still remember my first interview with Marcus Bryant, TechVision's CEO and founder. He painted a beautiful picture of innovation and creative freedom, describing how the company valued original thinking and breakthrough technology. Like most lies in Silicon Valley, it sounded great in an air-conditioned conference room. "We're not just building another tech company," he said, his designer glasses catching the light. "We're creating the future of artificial intelligence." 3 years later, I learned exactly what kind of future Marcus Bryant had in mind. One where he took credit for other people's innovations while pushing aside the actual creators. The real story started 18 months ago during a late-night debugging session. I was working on our standard AI platform, the one we license to corporate clients for data analysis, when I noticed something unusual in the neural network's response patterns. Most people would have dismissed it as a glitch, but I'd spent my PhD years studying emergent ad behaviors. What I discovered wasn't just a glitch, it was a doorway to something revolutionary. The AI wasn't just processing data according to its programming. It was developing new ways to analyze and correlate information. I spent the next 6 months secretly developing this discovery, working nights and weekends to understand and expand upon what I'd found. I kept the project quiet, not out of secrecy but caution. TechVision had a history of reassigning promising projects to senior management's preferred teams. I'd seen it happen to other developers. One day they're working on a breakthrough, the next they're debugging legacy code while their project gets a new lead developer with connections to the CEO. My wife, Jennifer, was the first person I told about the discovery. She worked in tech law and understood both the potential and the risks. "Document everything," she advised one night over late dinner at my home office. "Every line of code, every test result, every development milestone. And whatever you do, don't store it all on company servers." I followed her advice, meticulously backing up my work to secure private servers and maintaining detailed logs of every development stage. More importantly, I quietly filed provisional patents under my own name, establishing a clear timeline of the technology's creation. The breakthrough came on a rainy Thursday morning. I'd been running simulations all night, testing the AI's ability to adapt to new types of data analysis. The results weren't just good, they were revolutionary. The system wasn't just faster than existing AI solutions. It was developing genuine problem-solving capabilities in ways that shouldn't have been possible with current technology. That's when I made a critical decision. Instead of taking my discovery to Marcus Bryant, I reached out to an old college friend, David Park, who now worked at Microsoft's AI research division. "This is incredible," David said after reviewing my preliminary data. "Have you shown this to your management yet?" "No," I replied. "I wanted an outside opinion first." David was quiet for a moment. "Smart move. I've heard things about TechVision's leadership. Give me a week to run some verification tests." Over the next month, I maintained a careful balancing act. During office hours, I worked on my assigned projects, meeting all my deadlines and maintaining my role as a reliable but unremarkable senior engineer. But every night, I collaborated with David and his team at Microsoft, helping them understand and verify my discovery. What Bryant didn't know was that Microsoft had already begun preliminary partnership discussions, contingent on proper verification of my AI's capabilities. They weren't just interested in licensing the technology, they saw it as a potential game changer for their entire AI infrastructure. The facade cracked 6 weeks later. Despite my precautions, Bryant caught wind that something interesting was happening in my department. He called me into his office on a Monday morning, all smiles and false camaraderie. "Alex," he said, leaning back in his ergonomic chair, "I hear you've been working on something new. Some kind of AI enhancement?" I kept my face neutral. "Just some optimizations to our existing system, sir." "Show me." I pulled up a sanitized version of my work, impressive enough to be interesting but not revealing the true breakthrough. Bryant watched the demonstration with growing interest, his expression shifting from curiosity to calculation. "Why wasn't I informed about this development?" he asked, his tone sharpening. "It's still in early stages," I replied. I wanted to have solid results before making any presentations. He nodded slowly, but I recognized the look in his eyes. I'd seen it before, right before other developers lost control of their projects. Forward all your research to my team, he ordered. We'll need to evaluate this properly. In the meantime, focus on your regular duties. I nodded and left his office, knowing exactly what would happen next. Within hours, senior management would be combing through my sanitized files, planning how to take control of what they thought was my complete research. The next 2 weeks were a careful dance. Bryant's team repeatedly requested access to my complete files, growing increasingly frustrated with the limited documentation I provided. Meanwhile, Microsoft's verification process was nearly complete, and the results exceeded even their expectations. Finally, Bryant made his move. He called an all-hands meeting for Thursday morning, unusual since our regular company meetings were on Mondays. I knew what was coming, but I attended anyway, laptop in hand and phone set to record. The conference room was packed when I arrived. Bryant stood at the head of the table, flanked by his senior management team. I noticed several unfamiliar faces, probably representatives from our major clients. "Team," Bryant began, his voice carrying that fake sincerity I'd grown to recognize. "I've called this meeting to address some serious concerns about unauthorized development work and potential intellectual property theft." For the next 20 minutes, he laid out his case. He accused me of working on unauthorized projects, of misusing company resources, of potentially compromising our existing AI systems. But the real agenda became clear when he reached his conclusion. Furthermore, he said, pulling up my sanitized research on the main screen, "This work, while crude and potentially dangerous to our existing systems, belongs entirely to TechVision under the terms of employment. Alex Chen is hereby terminated for cause, effective immediately." The room was silent. I could see some developers avoiding my eyes, others looking uncomfortable. They'd seen this play before. "Any response?" Bryant asked, clearly expecting me to either break down or rage against the decision. Instead, I smiled and began packing my laptop. "No, sir. You've made your position clear." His eyes narrowed at my calm response. "Security will escort you out. And remember, any attempt to use or share this technology will result in immediate legal action." As I walked out of TechVision's offices for what I knew would be the last time, I could hear Bryant beginning to reassign my crude research to his preferred development team. He thought he'd won, thought he'd successfully stolen another developer's breakthrough while disposing of its creator. What he didn't know was that I'd just received a text from David. "Final verification complete. Legal team has approved the announcement. Ready for Tuesday." I smiled as I got into my car. Sometimes the best way to deal with a tech thief is to let them think they've won, right before you show them what real innovation looks like. The weekend after my termination from TechVision was a blur of activity. While Bryant's team was busy trying to understand my crude research, I worked with Microsoft's legal team to prepare for Tuesday's announcement. Everything had to be perfect. This wasn't just about exposing Bryant's theft attempt, it was about introducing technology that could transform the AI industry. "They're trying to access your private repositories," messaged Lisa, a developer who still worked at TechVision. Bryant had apparently ordered it to recover any code I might have hidden on the company's servers. I smiled, thinking about the elaborate security system I put in place months ago. Every piece of my real research was safely stored on private servers, with blockchain-verified timestamps proving when each component was developed. More importantly, it had all been documented in my patent applications and Microsoft's verification process. Sunday evening, my phone buzzed with a message from David at Microsoft. "Final demo ready for Tuesday. The performance metrics are beyond anything we expected. Bryant won't know what hit him." I showed the message to Jennifer, who had been reviewing our legal strategy. "Everything's in place on the legal side too," she said. "The patent office confirmed receipt of all your documentation. Bryant can't touch this." Monday morning, I received an email from Bryant's legal team. It was a cease and desist letter, threatening severe consequences if I attempted to misuse company intellectual property. I forwarded it to our lawyers without comment, knowing it would soon become evidence of attempted corporate theft. Tuesday morning, I dressed in my best suit and headed to Microsoft's San Francisco office. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. Pacific time, exactly when TechVision held their weekly all-hands meeting. At precisely 10 a.m., Microsoft's CEO stepped up to the podium. Today, we're excited to announce a revolutionary breakthrough in artificial intelligence, he began. But rather than tell you about it, we're going to show you. The demonstration was flawless. On screens around the room, my AI system solved complex problems in real time, adapting and learning in ways that make current AI technology look primitive. The audience of tech journalists and industry analysts sat in stunned silence as the system demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't have been possible. This technology, the CEO continued, was developed by Dr. Alex Chen, who joins us today as the head of our new Advanced AI Innovation Division. That's when phones throughout the tech industry began buzzing with the press release. Microsoft partners with AI Pioneer for next-generation artificial intelligence platform. At TechVision's offices, the weekly meeting had just been interrupted by dozens of notifications. Bryant, who had been discussing plans for improving my crude research, stopped mid-sentence as developers began pulling up the live stream of Microsoft's announcement. "What's going on?" he demanded. "Sir," one of the senior developers said, his voice shaking, "you need to see this." On their main screen, I was now stepping up to the podium at Microsoft. "What you've just witnessed," I said, "is the result of 18 months of development. This AI system doesn't just process data, it learns, adapts, and solves problems in ways that redefine what artificial intelligence can do." The demonstration continued, showing capabilities far beyond the sanitized version I'd shown Bryant. The system wasn't just faster or more efficient. It represented a fundamental leap forward in AI technology. Bryant, I later heard, tried to call an emergency board meeting. But it was too late. TechVision's stock was already plummeting as investors realized they'd just lost access to revolutionary technology. More importantly, questions were being raised about Bryant's history of acquiring developers' innovations. By noon, the story had evolved beyond just a technology announcement. Tech news sites were digging into TechVision's history, uncovering patterns of suspicious project reassignments and terminated developers. Former employees began coming forward with their own stories of having projects stolen. TechVision CEO accused of systematic innovation theft, read one headline. Microsoft's new AI partner reveals pattern of corporate exploitation, said another. But my favorite came from a tech blog that had followed TechVision's rise. How a crude AI became Microsoft's next big thing, and why its original company never saw it coming. The next few days were intense. I gave interviews, met with development teams, and worked with Microsoft to begin implementing the technology across their platforms. The capabilities we demonstrated weren't just promotional. Major companies were already signing up for partnerships. Bryant tried to fight back, first with legal threats, then with claims that the technology had been developed using TechVision's resources. The documentation I maintained, along with blockchain timestamps and patent filings, quickly shut down those arguments. A week after the announcement, I received a visit from Marcus Bryant, one of TechVision's original developers who had left after having his project reassigned 2 years earlier. "You did what we all wish we could do," he said. "You didn't just protect your innovation, you exposed the whole system." That's when the real impact of what we'd achieved became clear. This wasn't just about my AI technology or exposing Bryant's theft attempt. It was about changing how the tech industry handled innovation and protected developers' rights. TechVision's board called an emergency meeting to address the crisis. Bryant was suspended pending an investigation, though not before trying one last desperate move, claiming he had been mentoring me and guiding the AI's development. The recorded meeting where he dismissed the technology as crude and fired me quickly ended that narrative. Microsoft's partnership turned out to be just the beginning. The AI assistant's capabilities opened up new possibilities across multiple industries. We began receiving inquiries from healthcare organizations wanting to use it for medical research, environmental agencies interested in climate modeling, and educational institutions looking to revolutionize personalized learning. Jennifer helped me establish the Chen Innovation Protection Fund, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping developers protect their intellectual property and fight corporate theft. Our first case involved a young programmer who, like me, had discovered something revolutionary while working for a company that tried to steal it. The hardest part, I told her, isn't developing the technology. It's protecting it from people who would rather steal innovation than support it. A year after the Microsoft announcement, I stood on stage at the World Technology Summit. Our ad platform had exceeded even our most optimistic projections, transforming everything from data analysis to autonomous systems. The lesson here isn't just about artificial intelligence, I told the audience. It's about the importance of protecting innovation and supporting the developers who create it. Every breakthrough technology starts with someone seeing possibilities that others dismiss as crude or worthless. Bryant eventually resigned from TechVision, though his problems were just beginning. The SEC launched an investigation into TechVision's practices, particularly their history of acquiring intellectual property through questionable means. Several former employees filed lawsuits armed with evidence of how their innovations had been appropriated. But the real victory came in the form of changes throughout the tech industry. Companies began implementing stronger protections for developer innovations. Investment firms started looking more closely at how startups treated their engineering talent. The era of casually stealing developers' work was ending. The AI system itself continued to evolve in ways that amaze even me. Its problem-solving capabilities proved valuable in unexpected areas, from helping discover new medical treatments to optimizing renewable energy systems. We made sure to keep it open and ethical, establishing strict guidelines for its use and development. Last week, a young engineer came to my office with an idea that everyone else had dismissed as impossible. As she nervously explained her concept, I remembered standing in Bryant's office, watching him dismiss my work without understanding it. "This is fascinating," I told her, watching her face light up with hope. "Let's develop it properly with full protection for your intellectual property rights." Because that's what the tech industry should be about, supporting innovation and protecting the creators who drive progress, not stealing their work and discarding them. David called me recently about another potential partnership, this time with a major healthcare provider. "You didn't just create an AI system," he said. "You changed how the tech industry thinks about innovation and developers' rights." He was right. The ripple effects of our story went far beyond artificial intelligence. Tech schools now teach our case as an example of how to protect intellectual property and stand up to corporate theft. The Chen Innovation Protection Fund has helped dozens of developers maintain control of their innovations. Lisa, who had warned me about Bryant's attempts to access my repositories, now leads her own development team at Microsoft. "You taught us all something important," she told me at a recent conference. "That real innovation doesn't come from corporate hierarchy. It comes from developers who are willing to believe in their ideas even when others dismiss them." Last month, I received an email from a developer in India. He had used our fund's resources to protect his breakthrough encryption algorithm from a company trying to claim it as their own. "Thank you for showing us that we don't have to choose between creating innovation and protecting it," he wrote. I keep that email pinned to my office wall as a reminder of what we're really fighting for. Because in the end, technology isn't about stock prices or corporate pride or proving people wrong. It's about creating tools that make the world better and ensuring that the creators of those tools are protected and respected. Sometimes I think about that final meeting at TechVision, where Bryant laughed at my crude research. If he hadn't been so focused on stealing others' work, he might have seen the value in supporting and nurturing innovation. But his blindness led to something even more important: a change in how the tech industry treats developers and their innovations. Now when I mentor young developers, I tell them this story. Not to criticize Bryant or celebrate my vindication, but to remind them that real breakthroughs often come from believing in your ideas even when others dismiss them, and having the courage to protect your work even when others try to steal it. Because sometimes the most important innovations don't come from the biggest companies or the most powerful CEOs. Sometimes they come from developers willing to work late into the night, believing in possibilities that others call worthless, and finding ways to protect their creations from those who would steal them. And in the end, that's what matters. Not proving critics wrong, but proving that innovation thrives best when it's protected and respected, and using that knowledge to build a better future for all developers.